This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Everybody, welcome to the Easthampton City Council Finance Committee meeting. I'm just going to pull up our agenda because there's a bunch of things on it. So it's 5:32 on Wednesday, April 29th. We're all here. We've got minutes from the last meeting.
I do not have minutes quite yet.
Okay.
A lot to be in those.
Yes.
But
Yes.
our next meeting is definitely my plan.
Okay. Thought I saw something. Okay. Mayor communications. Mayor, anything you want to communicate?
Nothing more than what I communicated the other night.
Okay, great. So public speak. Anyone from the public want to speak on anything that's not on our agenda? Okay. All right, so let's we've got this right now with old business and the new business, but I think let's just handle the new business first and then switch back to the old business. Unless there's any objections to that. So we have a CPA transfer of $7,950 from CPA undesignated fund balance to CPA admin expenses. Hey, would you like to explain this?
Yeah, for sure. So I just want to start by saying that the undesignated admin fund account is returned to undesignated at the end of the year. So this is an overestimate over what we think we'll need to close out the contracts that we currently have under the admin expenses. And the remainder of the funds will return to the undesignated fund at the end of this fiscal year. Over the last 2 fiscal years, we've returned $2,625 to undesignated at the end of the fiscal year. FY 2025, that was the $2,625 was returned to the undesignated fund from the admin expense account with the understanding that it would be utilized this following year with our contract with PVPC. So there were a couple items that increased the admin expenses for the CPA this year. We did a couple major things. We did a full revamp of our preservation plan, which many councilors are aware of. That was a really exciting process, and we worked. We had some minimal technical support from Pioneer Valley Planning Commission for that revamp. So that was a $5,200 contract with them, and involved the creation of a map showcasing all of our CPA appropriations from the last 10 years, some support in the affordable housing section that I'm less familiar with as a conservation planner myself, and just generally someone who, having a person for me to work with closely on this process who has written, countless city plans over the years. So that was the contracting we did with PVPC for $5,200. We also advertised our preservation plan process really widely. We printed brochures. We did it was $534 of the legal ad and the advertising and the brochures for the preservation plan process. And then the other expenses are our typical $2,875 for Community Preservation Coalition dues. So that's our dues that we pay to the Community Preservation Coalition, a partnership organization that provides technical support on the Community Preservation Act implementation. They're the ones who I turn to when Councillor Denham asks me questions about CPA that I don't know. They're like the state experts on CPA. They're really a vital resource. And it's 3 scrappy folks working out of Boston who handle all CPA questions for the state. So it's really good that we are able to support them with our coalition dues. And then we also paid $2,750 for an appraisal for a potential future CPA open space acquisition, which is another traditional use of CPA admin funds.
So one more time.
We paid $2,750 for an appraisal of a potential future CPA open space acquisition. And so all of these uses are like stock standard CPA admin expenses. When we wrote the budget for FY 2026, we didn't have a good sense of what the admin expenses were going to look like for the year that we are currently in. We appropriated the same amount as we did in previous years, which was $5,500. And that doesn't cover a list of things I just sent over.
And one of the reasons for that is because we're supposed to do a CPA plan update annually, but we haven't done one in a decade.
Right.
So whatever we did last year did not factor in doing a thing that we're supposed to be doing on a regular basis, but we did. I think my first year as a city councilor, either that or when I was running for city council, one or the other, was the only time before now that we've done it. So that's part of the reason for the discrepancy.
Right.
Councilors, questions?
I guess I have one, which is just, as far as these admin funds are concerned, forgive me if you've answered this in a previous meeting, but are those similarly restricted as the rest of the CPA funds are, or is this coming out of in any way? Okay.
No, so we're talking about a transfer from the undesignated CPA account, which is entirely separate from the general fund, completely separate account, to the CPA administration expenses fund. And so CPA legislation allows up to 5% of the CPA's revenue to be utilized for administration each year. Easthampton has consistently come in under half of that. So we've only used under 2.5% of the CPA's revenue for the administration. That's to pay a portion of my salary as the CPA coordinator and for these other expensive administrative expenses. So we're really well under. A lot of communities, particularly out east, maximize that, right? They fund a full-time person with their CPA admin at 5% of the revenue. So we're really judicious here in Easthampton to utilize as much of CPA funds for actual good, awesome, amazing CPA projects as possible. But those projects come with the necessary administration costs.
Okay. And just, I know you showed me this like 3 weeks ago, but where would the CPA undesignated balance stand after this appropriation?
Yep. So after this appropriation and the appropriations that the councilors approved at the meeting, at the 2 city council meetings ago, the undesignated account stands at $618,052.
Okay, and that's before whatever we get for next fiscal year.
Yes.
Okay, I'm comfortable with that. Any other questions?
I don't. I mean, I've talked to people a lot recently about a number of different things, right? So this is appropriate.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to recommend this appropriation or this interdepartmental transfer to the full council.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. In terms of old business, I assume we're not going to be getting any reports from the city auditor tonight because she's not here.
Next meeting.
Next meeting, great. Any update on the borrowing authorizations for City Space and Honeywell?
Hadel met with our outside auditors. They came on site to just kind of help us clean up a lot last minute loose ends. So I think next meeting we should have an update on that as well.
Great, thank you. Okay, there's the request to create a healthcare cost stabilization fund. Did we not vote on that? I thought we voted on that already in the full council. But it's been a kind of hectic couple weeks. It's possible.
I do not remember. I know I attended the event, and so I'm confusing those 2 things in my head at the moment.
I feel like I spoke to the full council.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember if that was when you passed it.
We certainly voted on it in committee before the last meeting. And there was a whole joke about it because we were supposed to vote on it the meeting before that, but we were having that crazy feedback issue, and I had just it got by me. But I thought we already. I'll double check the minutes. But
there's no rush on that one. So
okay.
if you don't,
All right. So the next one we have is a request for the creation of a communications donation account for the purchase of interoperable emergency response portable radios for the fire department. Would anyone like to speak to this?
That's all part of that, I think, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, so the fire department was getting a donation, got a big check.
Okay,
And I believe that this is just an account for that big check to be deposited in.
all right.
It was a generous donation from Easthampton Savings Bank. Yes.
That's great. I have no problem voting for this. I do sort of wonder, like, the fire department definitely has some existing donation accounts. Was there a sense that none of those could receive this check?
It's very specific.
Specific purchase, I think is
Okay.
why they needed this specific account.
There's specific, just okay. Yeah. All right. Well, it doesn't cost us anything, and I certainly
And
don't
it's
want to turn
and
down
just
donated equipment.
to clarify, it's not like we're going to be opening a new bank account in a new bank. This is just creates internally a bucket for us to place this money.
Right. So, and then when they spend the money, that bucket ceases to exist.
Should be closed out, yeah, eventually.
Okay. Councilors,
Unless the bank wants to give more money.
yeah, if the
And we
bank
would
wants to
like to
give
refill
more
that.
money,
That would
we could certainly talk about it.
Ideally.
ideally.
Councilors, any questions?
I don't have any questions. Like I said, I attended the event with the mayor, and so, it makes sense that these funds go into that specific account. So, I have no questions.
Okay.
It makes complete sense, right?
Makes sense to me. Certainly, I think that with times getting tougher, I don't think we've ever turned down a donation, and I don't see this being a good time to start.
I think we might be opening the doors for more.
Yes, if anyone else wants to
Where's windows?
send.
Doors.
But what I do want to speak to, if that's okay, just, I think this was really, what's the word I'm looking for here? I appreciated the forward thinking and the proactive, engagement of the fire chief to reach out to the bank and ask them for support regarding the purchase of these radios. I think it's really important for the community to understand that, yes, while the city is facing financial challenges, I think this is a really great example of one of our department heads kind of thinking outside the box and going out and looking for kind of private funds to be able to support a public need, right? And this public need is related to those radios, which obviously relates to the safety of our firefighters, right? Because these are radios that they are using to be able to communicate with each other in an emergency, right? If there's a fire in the building, they're able to communicate with each other, etc. So I really appreciate the fire chief, Chief Norris, really proactively going out and looking for those funds. And while I wish the city had those funds on hand to be able to put those towards the safety of first responders, I recognize that this was something that was kind of above and beyond, that he went out and got those funds to update and improve the communication systems within the fire department. So very much appreciated again.
If there's not anything else, I would entertain a motion to recommend the creation of a communications donation account to the full council.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. The next one we have is a request for the creation of a first responder wellness donation account. Would anyone like to speak to that?
That was removed. That was the what Chad Alexander had requested we remove in the last city council meeting, and we removed it there, so it doesn't need to be, as a city council, we removed it from our agenda, so.
I see. I was not at that meeting. Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting. I had if I had been at that meeting, I would have spoken to this. Okay. I think that my understanding of that is that, yeah, I think I want to talk to Chad a little bit about that, because I think there was some concerns about some optics stuff, but I also think that there's maybe ways that we could tweak that without just straight up abandoning it. But if it was removed from our agenda, then we can't really talk about it. Okay.
I believe without prejudice.
I'm sure it was without prejudice. So, hopefully we can send something back that doesn't have those concerns so we can figure something out.
And that request did come from Chief Alexander, so just to.
Yeah, he had reached out to me as well, and anyway. So, okay, supplemental appropriations. There's two that we have here from our last meeting. The first one is $29,907.49 from free cash to fund equipment necessary to support computer systems.
So Karen was called away today. So I think Karen would be the one to speak to this. She had a family emergency.
Okay.
So
my understanding is it's not incredibly pressing, so we can keep it on our agenda until
like a time sensitive for today. So I think we would be fine to wait so Karen can explain.
All right. And I think she also mentioned during our whole meeting willingness to reach out to, I think, other IT departments to see if there's any avenue for collaboration. So I think that makes sense.
And I will say that Karen and I did talk about that, and we are exploring some options around maybe coordinating with schools and having an emergency offsite backup, potentially coordinating with the schools to find some efficiency there.
Okay, that sounds great. All right, so we'll just keep that on the agenda until we can get more information. Next is the $5,000 from free cash to fund a new part-time position in the tax collector's office for FY26.
And so this was one that we had talked about previously, and we have our tax collector here as well to speak to this. What we were finding, and this is actually a very ongoing discussion from many months actually, to try to find a part-time person for this position. And I think Lori can speak to this more than I can, but collections was reorganized a few years ago, where water and sewer was not part of collection, the tax collector's office. And those two things got merged, and the increase in staffing never changed. There was a decrease in staffing. And so, I think one of the things with the collector's office being with so many people coming in on a regular basis, and the importance of the work that's being done in there of securing and capturing revenue for the city, having a part-time person in there to help with water sewer, to help keep things running smoothly, is going to allow for further efficiencies within the entire finance department. And that would include the auditor and the treasurer's office to make sure things don't get backed up. And we can stay on track, so we can be for next year on track to certify free cash on time. I think that's one of the pieces. The other piece is the funding piece. So we are working with Enterprise to adjust the Enterprise chargeback to look at potentially offsetting this $5,000 from free cash to be able to bring that back into free cash, so it would actually come from Enterprise.
Full FY27 salary.
And in addition to the $5,000 that we're asking for free cash, the full FY27 salary would also be incorporated into the chargeback. So this would be basically fully funded by Enterprise, which is what, because their water sewer billing and understanding of the Neptune system needs to be kind of seated within that office. Having Enterprise fund that position makes a lot of sense. And I would have Lori speak to that too. Go ahead.
First. Okay,
Oh.
so before the tax collector's office was 2.5 people just collecting taxes. Then the water sewer the whole water sewer got put over into the tax collectors. And that was a 3-person office that ran that amongst other things. But now we're down to a 2 full-time person dealing with taxes and dealing with water sewer. And the water sewer is everything from beginning to end, from doing the readings to creating the billing file to getting that to the deputy collector to then collecting the bills. And we're collecting basically two sections of town each month. So if there's one person out of the office for being sick or going on vacation, you get backed up because it's literally 2 full-time jobs. And if one person's missing, it just backs things up.
Okay.
So the part-time would help.
So I just want to make sure I understood you correctly, Mayor Derby, that the appropriation that we have before us, we appropriate hypothetically, but it looks like $5,000 can come from the enterprise system that would actually then put back that $5,000. We're just doing this kind of
It's
in the immediate
it's the
to make it
cleanest
happen.
way in the immediate time.
Okay, good. Again, I think that I just want to, first of all, to address Lori, I fully support your office. Like, I don't want you to think that that's not questioned in any way. I think that the amount of, I'll just say it, I think the amount of vitriol that you deal with within that office with residents and the grace in which you and the employees of that office have historically dealt with kind of the challenges that people are facing when they're paying their taxes and they're dealing with their day-to-day lives and trying to get through. I fully support this and want to make sure that the issue that I have is just going back to, I don't know how this person was hired before we even appropriate the money. I just think there was a complete breakdown in communication there. And to be honest, I'm still not over that. I think that was a complete disregard of city council and the role that we play within the city. And I will address that as we continue to go on, because that it felt like, to be perfectly frank, it just felt like we were expected to rubber stamp it and it was going to move forward, and that decision was made. And now we have a very engaged and active city council that those individuals are really looking at, what does this mean? How is this going to be paid for? And really kind of thinking several steps ahead, right? I think the fact that Councillor Newton was like, hang on a second, if we approve this and then we don't pass the override, and then now we're going to be paying more money for this person's unemployment, right, potentially. And so I just want to just acknowledge that while I fully support the tax collector's office, and I will support this now, knowing that money is going to come from enterprise, hopefully, but I'm still incredibly disappointed that decision was made to hire that person before city council. I just felt like we were expected to rubber stamp that and move on. So again, that I'm certain there are other councilors who were also not only disappointed, but a bit disturbed that action happened without our approval. That's the whole point, the whole reason we're here, right, is to be able to make sure that we're asking those tough questions. So I just want to acknowledge that I think this is where that hang up kind of happened. And to be honest, the fact that it was mentioned that forgot to get city council's or forgot that city council's approval hadn't happened between the time that the appropriation was put forward and the public hearing, to say that somehow that was forgotten and the person was hired, I think is really kind of an unacceptable answer. So just gonna say that.
And I would love to address that. So as this process moved forward, this was a function of the human resource office interviewing and hiring this person. And I think really what happened was there was a mistake.
No, I'm not.
And so by the time it made it to my office, we realized that mistake had been made. And so that's why we tried to rectify. And so just so you know, the mistake was identified, it was put in writing, it was, addressed, and we have put in some controls to make sure that that mistake doesn't happen again.
Appreciate that.
Any other questions?
There's one, so it sounds like there will be a likely future request for that transfer from enterprise to free cash to reimburse these funds. Is there any idea of what the timeline on that might be?
So currently, that would be part of the enterprise chargeback, which is the enterprise, which kind of runs as its own separate organization, pays the city for the services that the city provides for the enterprise water, sewer, and wastewater. So we are currently renegotiating the chargeback. So the city basically negotiates with the Board of Public Works. So that process has started.
And it hasn't been updated since FY15, so
Yeah,
it's long overdue.
It's been 11 years since it's been updated. And so we're in that process right now. So part of that process is going to be acknowledging, the work that's done. And so that when we get those final numbers, then that chargeback will be basically paid to the city. And then that a transfer within the city that we can put back into the general fund, which we could put into stabilization. We could put into, just the general fund if we wanted to. At that, figure out where that 5,000 would go. But and then the intention is to fully fund the position with the enterprise chargeback.
And so it sounds like those conversations are ongoing, and there's not a clear picture of when they might wrap up.
It will be pretty soon.
Yeah.
Because regardless, enterprise has to pay the city for the services that the city provides. We just want to make sure that we can update that formula so it accurately reflects the work on the city side that happens to support enterprise.
Any other questions? Okay. That's an interesting, the chargeback formula thing.
It is in 2015.
Yeah, I'd love to get more updates about that as they come along. I would entertain a motion to recommend this appropriation to the full council.
So moved.
Motion is second. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
And we have a public hearing set for this on May 6th. We're all up to date.
Okay, great. The last remaining pieces of old business are adoption of property tax exemption options. I don't know. I know that is this something you would like to talk about, or I know that Martha has.
Well, we have Dan here.
Oh, Dan, yeah,
who's the
of
chair
course.
of the Board of Assessors, and Christine, who works in the office as well.
Okay.
And we had sat down and worked, and I think Councilor Dunham was even there. And we had talked about this, and so I think that they could speak to this as well.
Absolutely.
Before we get to that, just a little piece of background information. The town has clause 41C for seniors. That was increased from 500, I believe, to 750, and then 1,000. And it has, the means testing has gone up. 17F, we currently have 17D. That's $175 off if they meet the asset requirement. 17F would institute or increase the amount that they get back by the COLA that the state determines. The amount for this year, if we had that in, would have been $180.
180 rather than
the 180, it would go basically from 175 to 180, but the total cost would be 180
per qualifying. person?
No, for everybody. The increase in that we would give back would only be $180.
Okay,
So there's only 36 people that get this, that apply.
okay. And they each get,
They would each get it. It's weird because the amount it would go up is to 180, and that's also the total cost
Let's see.
for the city
city,
would be
yeah.
180
It's not a huge
by
amount of money.
adopting this one.
wait, hold on.
Yep.
Each person would get 180.
Each person would go from 175 to 180.
So they're
Okay.
getting $5 more.
They're getting $5
And there's
more off.
36 of them, so the marginal cost
Is 180
of
as
doing
well.
this versus the other one
It's
is
really
180.
weird
I was
how it
like,
works out.
hold on, 180 times 36 is not 180. Okay, I understand what you're saying now.
It's
Um,
easy to remember, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah. Okay, provided because there could be new people though.
There could be new people, and with what's going on, there might be a lot more.
Okay, so we don't really know, but if it was the same exact number, it would be 100.
Yeah, the amount that this is going up, we could absorb in the overlay, existing overlay amount. I mean, it's only
Could you expand on that?
every year when we do the recap, we put a certain amount away for exemptions and abatements.
Okay,
And I think last year was like 350,000 or 370. And then we just did the form for reimbursement last night. We got 115 of that back.
from
Or-
the state?
The state gives it back, right? We sent, the forms were submitted last night, signed off at our meeting. They'll be added to the cherry sheet for next year.
Okay,
We'll get 115,000 in reimbursement. This part is not covered by a reimbursement.
I'm just gonna be as transparent as I can. These sort of the like exemption options and whatnot, these were things that I think the previous administration was not very fond of. So we didn't do a ton of these in my time on the council. We've done a couple. So my understanding of these systems is not close to my understanding of some other things that finance touches. So if I'm asking a lot of questions, please bear with me, but it's been a couple of years since we've talked about this stuff. So the idea is that when you're doing the recap, we set some money aside with the idea that we're estimating that there's a population that's going to be coming and seeking exemptions. And so that money is raised basically to,
It's included in the levy.
okay,
So it's not in addition to.
right, it's included in the levy.
So when we have our levy and the mayor puts forward the budget and says, how much do you need? And we put, say, 350. You
Okay,
mark 350 down and he reduces what we can spend as
okay,
a town by 350.
okay,
And then after a few years, we go through it and say, okay, we don't need this amount anymore. We turn it back.
got it.
Last year, we turned 400,000 back for
Okay,
use in this year's budget because we weren't going to have anything going back.
all right.
prior years.
And so then the idea with this being a COLA thing, I think I really like this. And then is that, because I think that one of the problems with a lot of things that happen in public policy in local government that I've noticed is that we talk about things in terms of a number. An example from a couple of years ago, we set like parking tickets at a certain number in the 70s. And if you actually increase, like had that going up by inflation, like our parking tickets would be pretty, like those people in the 70s were not joking around with their parking tickets, but just with the amounts that just incomes and general costs have increased over that time, it now is like a much more bearable amount than it would have been in the 70s. And so the idea is that like you have to really stay on top of this stuff. So I do kind of, with certain things like this that really do kind of affect people, I like the idea of indexing them to like known government things so that we don't end up in a place where there's a couple busy years, we take our eyes off this and then it's like, oh, wow, we haven't updated this in 10 years. And the amount that we're offering is really like, it's not even close to what it was, in terms of the actual like relief that you're granting with it. So I like that idea. Councilors, do you have any questions on this proposal?
Just remind me, what population of people receive this?
It's people 65 and older. can apply, or widowers can apply at any age.
So I just wanted to make sure that was for the public, right? So I think given just the nature of the financial situation that we're all in, I'm supportive of this. I think anything that we can do to put, I guess, in this case, $5 more in the hands of people. And it's really a nominal cost to the city. So I appreciate you bringing that to our attention.
Yeah, just to point out this, we discussed this back in February before the financial.
Yes.
We looked at, there's one further down, the HEROES Act from last year for veterans, which we looked at and said, well, if we're going to propose to veterans, we should do 17D as well, even though it's only $5.
It's $5 now, but if it's the COLA, you look at this 5, 10, 20 years out, it's going to be meaningful to people as they face further costs. And if nothing else, it means that this will just happen automatically without us having to stay on top of it, which is good because staying on top of things like this is maybe not actually what I would describe as like a strong suit of the city council, like historically. So I think it makes sense. And, particularly if inflationary pressures continue like they have been. Councilors, any questions?
Again, just want to make a comment. Thank you so much again for bringing this to our attention. I think anytime that we can find ways of getting funds back into the hands of residents, particularly those who are in need of that, that's why you're here, right? You're in the nuts and bolts of all of these, and so it's greatly appreciated.
Actually, I just do have one more question. When you're saying that there's 36 households that have been applying to this, do you get a sense that that's because that's around the number of qualifying households, or do you feel that there's probably a bigger population of households that could qualify but don't apply?
I would say there's a lot of people that could get it that don't. There's no income limit at all for this one.
Any household.
It's an asset limit. You have to have, excluding your house and any registered motor vehicles, you have to have less than 78,000 and change in assets. So this is something that if the override goes through, I think we'll see a lot more people come in.
Okay, I think so too. And so my advice, and I'm sure that you are thinking the same thing, is that when you're doing the recap thing and making sure that we have some money set aside for this, I would anticipate that number growing.
Yeah,
even whether we do this or not, I would anticipate.
Right, because even if it doesn't pass, I think there's a lot of people that will come in.
Yep. So that is just my advice, to forecast that conservatively. Anything else? I would entertain a motion to recommend the adoption of General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 14F, 17F, annual cost of living adjustment for certain exemptions to the full council. Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Okay, the next one we've got is 22G. That's exception of requirement for legal and sufficient beneficial interest trusts.
This is a veterans exemption. Back in 2000, I think it was 18, they made a change to the law. If a veteran was getting this exemption and they put their property in a trust, but they didn't remain the beneficiary and the trustee, they lost their exemption. For people that are getting, there's different levels of veterans exemptions. This is somebody that's 100% and they lost their life due to that.
I see.
So they're a deceased veteran and the spouse gets it.
Okay.
This is something that a lot of communities around us adopted way back, that we were really aware of it at the time. Our office wasn't.
Okay.
The 100% I want to say this year, well, not for this year, there's nothing, but for next year, it's going to be somewhere around $5,000. But the 100% deceased is fully reimbursable by the state. So it would come in on the next year's cherry sheet. So whatever we grant in 27 for this, we would get back in full in 28.
And okay, so that's great. I just so I understand that like the individuals who would benefit from this, if there's a veteran whose assets were in a trust, is that what we're saying? Like their home was
If the house is put into a trust,
okay,
and the spouse is the beneficiary, but the trustee is somebody else, say a child or an attorney, they end up losing the exemption.
I see. That seems silly. I mean, I'm not sure if there's some like different perspective on this from somebody else, but to me that seems
They have to live in the house.
okay. They have to live in the
They
house.
can't
It's not
like rent their house
it's not
out or
like an
whatever. They have to live
Airbnb
there.
or something. They're not paying. Okay, then
Short-term rental.
yes.
No, can't do
Is
that.
that too soon? Is that too soon?
Yeah. All right. Then that makes sense to me. Counselors, do you have any questions on this one?
I guess I just want to real quick go over that one more time, just to make sure I'm understanding the context. I think this is actually being made available to you, because it seems like it would be a potentially small number of folks unless people are really kind of doing the work ahead of time to make sure they've got their house in a trust and that they've aligned their trust.
Right now, we know of one person.
Okay.
Basically, the veteran has to be 100% disabled and have died as a result of the disability.
Due to military duty.
So somebody that got cancer from Agent Orange passes away, their spouse gets the exemption, the full exemption.
That feels reasonable. That feels more than reasonable to me.
And we fully get reimbursed, so it's not.
So I just don't see what possible downside there would be from doing this unless there's something. Okay, great.
To recommend.
Second.
Motion and a second to recommend
Just read it for Maria.
General Law 59, Section 5, Clause 22G. All in favor? Aye. Okay, great. And we've got one more.
22I is exactly the same as 17F. It's a cost of living adjustment for all of the veterans exemptions.
Okay,
And that would cost the city roughly a tad under $2,000 a year for next year.
so 2,000 on top of what we're
On
currently.
top of what we're
Okay,
giving out now. Yeah, it's somewhere around, right now, we're giving out about 88,000 in
okay.
veterans benefits.
You said 88 or
88,
Then go up to 90.
and it would go up to about 90. And then again, like I said with the other one, $2,000 is something that the overlay, we could probably leave where it is and not have it impact on next
Okay.
year's budget. And this also is not, this one is not reimbursable.
Okay.
By the state, so we would still get the same amount we're getting each year.
Right. It still seems to me like the right thing to do to make sure that those exemptions keep up with the cost of living. I feel like that is just a sensible thing, even if it does end up costing us money in the long run, because I think that if it was costing us money in the long run, that's because the alternative is us kind of doing the wrong thing and not keeping our veterans exemptions in pace with inflation. That feels like the wrong thing to do. This just
I just for the public, so you just said that 22I is the same as 17F. Does that mean
Well,
that?
Same circumstances, that it's just a COLA. What the veterans exemptions are, it's somebody who has at least a 10% service-connected disability, anywhere from 10 to 100. 10% is $400 off their taxes.
So I guess what I was getting to is, could we see more people asking for this?
Not as much as like the senior,
Okay.
because the veterans agent really does a good job at letting them know. But I think we need to be out and about with the senior one, obviously, and I think more people will try to put in for that one.
Right. So this is something that your office then will just notify people or work with the veterans agent or work with the council on aging to kind of get the word
I
out.
think we need to set something up and have like events like a council on aging, and maybe Martha could do a spiel on it, and then maybe if you want to sit down with me and go through it, because the financials you don't want to do in front of others, obviously, but we could do it to the side if they wanted to talk, but reach out to the community for sure.
I really appreciate that, and I'd love to be able to support that in whatever way I can of getting the word out to seniors, veterans, so that they know that this is out there. And I think this is a really great way of using city funds, right, to support certainly our veterans, but also maybe on fixed income.
They also, when we do exemptions, they also, like if it's $1,000 they get off for their exemption, they also get 3% CPA taken off on top of it. So.
Okay. Mr. Schmidt, do you have any questions?
When you say CPA taken off, that is the amount of money that they would.
So like if someone's, I'm going to make up something, if their CPA is $150, and they have $1,000 exemption, they would get $30 taken off the CPA.
Okay. That's the money that they're coming out of their taxes and going towards CPA.
Yes.
Right. So they would actually get $1,000 plus $30.
What was that percentage one more time?
3%. CPA is 3% of the assessed value after we take 100,000 off.
3% of the tax.
Yeah, tax. Sorry. We do have a CPA exemption also.
Yeah, I've been talking to Stephen about that. So good.
All right. Unless there's any other questions.
One last question. I'm just kind of making sure I'm hearing things correctly for the notes. You mentioned that this would be relevant for veterans with disabilities. Did I hear you say that there was some variation in the amount depending on the disability that they have, and who's kind of making that determination?
They get a letter from the VA that says they're 10%. If it changes, they get another letter issued, but it's basically 10% or 100%. Or if they have loss of use of 2 legs, 2 arms.
So 10% to 90% is 400. Then 100% is the 1,000. There is one like limb loss and stuff like that is 750. And then if someone has adaptable housing through the VA, they can get 1,500.
Okay,
thank you.
That's a great program, and we want to make sure it keeps up with inflation. So I would entertain a motion to recommend General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 22I to the full council.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I think that's everything we've got for tonight. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.